Well, on day one of his new administration, President-elect Trump says he's going to crack down on immigration, no matter how much it costs.
He and his team haven't given specifics as to exactly how they're going to go about doing this, but this morning we're getting some inside perspective as to what could happen. And
that's so important for so many families across the country, but also in this area. Investigative reporter Dan Krauth joins us with more. Hey, Dan, so curious to hear about all of this.
Good morning. I sat down with a woman with a very unique perspective. As an attorney, she worked for the federal government on immigration cases under the last 3 presidents. She saw firsthand the way cases were handled and has predictions for what could happen in the next few days. As a daughter of immigrants, Veronica Gardenis knows firsthand what it's like to struggle to build a better life.
When I was growing up, I always had this desire to do more.
She used her law degree to help immigrant families like hers. She now works as an attorney, representing undocumented people who are trying to become legal citizens. But before that, she worked on the other side of the courtroom as an ICE prosecutor. These hearings are taking place behind closed doors where cameras are not allowed. So what was it actually like to be there in the courtroom?
It was very, very heartbreaking. There were so many cases. The courtrooms were flooded with people where judges literally had to tell people to go outside, do not come in the courtroom.
She worked for the last 3 presidents, starting with former President Obama.
The decisions felt more just.
Under the Obama administration?
Yes.
Says judges had more discretion to make decisions based on the person's individual circumstances.
When Trump stepped into office, it was a one-size-fits-all policy for everyone.
And then what happened under Biden?
Biden tried to roll back, but the inhumanity of the system, the way it changed during his 4 years, never went back.
He's going to crack down on day 1. What do you think that will look like in your experience?
Number one, most people are going to be detained at the border when they're coming through. Right now, there are exceptions.
She believes not only will more people be detained and turned away at the border, she believes the process will move more quickly.
Right now, an asylum case can take 3 to 5 years. I think what Trump is going to do and what he did in the first instance was when people ask for more time to find a lawyer, that's going to be a no, we're going to keep your case going because we need to keep this moving.
She says non-citizens who have been arrested for crimes and those who have pending removal orders to be deported are already a priority and will continue to be under President Trump. More than 4,600 have been arrested in New York City last year, and more than 139,000 non-citizens in New York have final removal orders pending.
My number one concern is that people get a fair hearing. Judges are not independent. They have to follow the Attorney General and the President's rule. That means every 4 years, there are policy changes. Under Trump, as a trial attorney, I didn't even have to say anything. I just needed to be in that spot to show a presence of the government. The law was already written. Their cases were decided before they even sat before the judge and made their pleas.
What do you have to say to the people who think, hey, my ancestors came here through a documented process and everyone else should as well?
We don't live in a world of shoulds. This is the reality. And as Americans, we have a choice. How do we want to be read in history? As a nation that follows our laws humanely, or as one that will stop at nothing to enforce it?
I reached out to the federal government. There are more than 11 million non-citizens in the country, and they don't have the resources to apprehend all of them. They target those who pose a threat to national security or public safety. Those who are targeted, they say, receive their legal due process. But as for now, how that policy will change come next week, the feds told me to contact the president-elect's transition team, and I haven't heard back.
Yeah, so much to get into. You have more coming up later on Eyewitness News,
Yeah, I
right?
sat down with 2 immigrant families. In both cases, a parent brought them here to escape the violence in their home countries, and they're worried that the children may be allowed to stay and the parents may be forced to leave.
Oh, wow.
Very, very emotional story.
It's coming up later on today.
So essentially becoming orphans.
Yes.
That's just, wow. Definitely will be tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
No, thanks, Dan.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dan.
A fragile deal to end a war. Coming up on Eyewitness News at 10, a breakthrough in the Middle East crisis. Israel and Hamas reach an agreement to pause fighting and release hostages, but it's not a done deal. So what is the holdup and how are people reacting? We're going to get a live report from Israel.